Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. I appreciate it. It's so nice to see you all. Looks like we have a really big crowd. They're setting up another table because we ran out of seats, so that's always a good sign. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ramya. I'm the Director of Environmental Science for the Key Biscayne Community Foundation. We do these lectures every month. Usually it's the fourth Thursday of every month. Towards the end of the year, when we have holidays, we kind of switch it around a bit, but it's always on a Thursday. And I'll always let you know if it's going to be a different day. So will Roxy. Today we have a great speaker from Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park, Fernanda Mendes Samia. And this is Mamda. This is Nanda's mom. And then we also have Christine Biggers and Julie Bracken. They're representing the Friends of Cape Florida, which is the nonprofit, the haunted hike. They do the haunted hike and the full moon party, things like that. So, and then they collect donations that go towards the upkeep of the park and all the things that they do there. So they'll be here in the audience if you guys have any specific questions about that. You can talk to them. But I'm not going to take up more of your time, and I'm going to hand it over to Nanda so she can talk to you about the park.
As she said, my name is Nanda. I'll tell you just a little bit about myself so you understand how I came to be doing this here today. So I'm originally from Brazil, born and raised. I moved up here when I was about 16, and I have always been into adventure, and I was kind of stagnant, hadn't been adventuring in a while. She gave me the bright idea to purchase a school bus and turn it into a tiny house, which I did with zero knowledge of how to build anything. It was quite the learning curve. It took a few years, but now we actually live in my school bus. And I was actually camping at Jonathan Dickinson State Park, fixing something in the bus. And one of the volunteers saw me as he was driving by, and he was like, "Hey, you look like you know how to do stuff. Maybe you want to volunteer for the state parks." And I said, "Sounds like a great idea." And he said, "You also get to live here." And I was like, "Okay, sign me up right now." So I got to live at Jonathan Dickinson State Park for quite a while. And it really gave a different meaning to my backyard. I really learned so much and embarked on this new adventure that I've been on for almost 6 years now. Over 5,000 volunteer hours added to the park services. I've met so many incredible people, and now I get to do this, telling other people about what I do through the Florida Conservation Corps and the AmeriCorps. Even though there was a little bit of tumultuous activity this past year, somehow we made it through, and we're still here. Welcome to Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park. I've been coming here for about 3 years now. I never thought I would live in Miami, especially after living in Jupiter. But they handed me keys to the lighthouse and said I could be the lighthouse keeper, which I've always wanted to do. So here I am. So we're going to talk a little bit about the park. There's a lot of written stuff here. I sort of adapted this from our interpretive panels so that when people come to the park, they can just stop and read if there's no ranger available for them to ask questions. That way they get a lot of information on their own. We have here an overview map of the park, and this used to be the brochure that we handed out to people, which was sort of the #1 piece of trash that we found in the park after. So now we're doing a digital brochure in an effort to curb a little bit of the debris that we find in the park. So we do have a lot of natural and historical resources. If I ask, what do you guys know about Bill Baggs Cape Florida State Park? What am I going to hear first? The lighthouse. That's right, El Farito. One of the main reasons why everybody comes there, and also one of the main reasons the park exists in Miami-Dade, I would even venture. We have over a mile of beach on the Atlantic side. We have over a 1.5 miles of seawall on the bay side. We're on the Biscayne Bay, as everybody knows. We also have nature trails on both sides of the park. I don't know if anybody knew that. You're welcome to bring your dogs and your bicycles, your motorized scooters, unfortunately. And we do try to get people to realize, hey, you're sharing the pedestrian trail. There's people walking here, especially the bikers. But we do have trails for everybody to enjoy. Some of them are on the water, and some of them are through more of a, inland, so you do get to see all kinds of other things. We are also part of the Great Florida Birding Trail. We'll talk about that as well a little bit. And we also have picnic areas. There are rental areas, paddleboard rentals, not kayaks. We do bicycles as well, beach chairs and umbrellas. And though there is no typical camping at Bill Bax Cape Florida State Park, we do welcome youth groups, and they don't actually have to pay to camp with us as long as they do a service project. So we welcome them to come do either an invasive removal, so they'll come in and remove non-native species of plants. They can do a beach cleanup. They can come up with their own project as well, so all kinds of different activities there in the park. I'm assuming a lot of you have been there before? Excellent. And if you haven't, you should. So just a little bit of the biodiversity that we have in the park. These are all Rumia's pictures. She was kind enough to share them with me today. So we have lots of fun things here. Everybody know what they're looking at? Portuguese man-o-war, not friendly. That's not a snowy egret, is it?
No, yes.
Snowy egret right there. Is that morning glory or is that dune sunflower?
I believe morning glory.
There we go. We got a brown pelican right there. You got a little, is that lager or green?
Loggerhead.
Loggerhead. Yellow crested, yeah. And then I think that's a channel crab. We got a gorgeous little yellow rat snake. She gets all coily when she's trying to hide and pretends like she's a stick. She's not fooling anybody. And then that's a glossy ibis. Yeah. We don't see a lot of glossy ibises in the park, but when we do, they're usually on their own and they only stay for a little while. We are a migratory waypoint for a lot of different birds. And bird banding season just kicked off in our park, so we do a lot of bird banding, and it has been done for quite some time now, well over a decade.
I think the oldest bird banding station in the country now, or the second oldest.
Pretty amazing. So we learn a lot about our birds and their migration patterns through the banding station. So lots of information there. Hey, look at that. First thing we're going to talk about, the Cape Florida Lighthouse. Does anybody know when the lighthouse went up?
1825.
That's right. That makes it this year is the 200th anniversary. Yes, so we've had all kinds of fun things planned even since last year we started celebrating it. This year we just had the National Lighthouse Day, which was a lot of fun. We learned how to make lighthouse cupola top hats out of cardboard. Your Amazon boxes have been repurposed. And here we have two examples. That is the lighthouse pre-renovation when we still had the plexiglass in the cupola, and this is post-renovation after our grant came through and we have clear glass and can see through the cupola now. We do offer free tours of the lighthouse in case no one has been to the top yet. They go on almost every day, so Thursdays through Mondays from 10 a.m. until noon. Our lovely lighthouse keeper is actually here, so she's our volunteer, Carrie. Wave, there she is. She's here as well. And like I said, it is free. If you haven't been up to the top, you absolutely have to. It is quite the experience. Even if you're afraid of heights like I am, I promise you, you can go nice and slow. You can take your time. As you're climbing, there are windows with beautiful views, so you don't have to go all the way to the top if you don't feel comfortable. Just a quick little timeline of the lighthouse. 1825, it's first erected, stands at 65 feet. So if you're looking at the lighthouse and you see that first window under the cupola, that's as high as it went at first. It was also operated with oil lanterns back then. What kind of oil did we use back then? That's correct, whale blubber. Luckily it is illegal now. Then in 1836, we had the Seminole attack on the lighthouse. The island had been used as part of the Saltwater Underground Railroad. So Seminole and Black Seminole, who were escaping slavery, were using the island as a sort of an escape route. They would come here and hide in the dead of night, make their way to either British sloops, some brave captains who would help them out, or dugout canoes, and they would make their way to the Bahamas or to the Caribbean to freedom. When the lighthouse was erected, it was a symbol of government. It was a stronghold for the government, and so that movement had to stop. Obviously, the Seminole were quite disgruntled. They were actually not native to Florida. I don't know if anybody knows that. They were actually pushed down south with the government, and they were being used as slaves, and obviously that made them quite unhappy. And then they were, once they got down here, they were starting to get pushed west. So they decided to take a stand. That's when the first Seminole War happened in Jupiter. Quite bloody, actually the bloodiest and costliest war the US had seen until then. And then the attack on the lighthouse here actually was the beginning of the Second Seminole War, which was the bloodiest and costliest that they saw then. So lots of history there. I won't go into detail, but if you'd like to go into detail of the Seminole attack, come to one of my lighthouse tours at the park. It gets really exciting, but we have a lot of ground to cover today, so we're not going to go into detail about that. 1839, the Davis family, who originally actually owned Key Biscayne, develops the first town of Key Biscayne. Then in 1846 was the first lighthouse renovation when they redid the stairs, added the new door, relit the lighthouse. And then it wasn't until 1855 that it was raised to 95 feet and equipped with a second order French Fresnel lens, a very fancy lens, that then shone 18 miles out to sea, which was way more effective than the oil lanterns. It was massive, so massive that it took up most of the cupola. And in fact, if anybody's interested in seeing what it looked like, there is a replica of it at the History Miami Museum. As you go in, you'll see this giant lantern up there. Then in 1861, the lens was destroyed during the Civil War in a suspected Confederate sabotage, which is why we don't have our lens, the actual lens anymore. 1867, the lighting was restored. I think they equipped it with a fifth order Fresnel at that point. But then they realized it still wasn't very effective. It was 6 miles away from the reef, and it only shone about 12 to 18 miles out. So, you know, we're talking tall ships back then. Just to give you an idea of the size of a tall ship. Just the flag of the country that they raised at the very tippy top of their ship was bigger than this entire room. So, you know, it was quite hard to move that thing around and much harder to stop it even. So if you didn't know there was a reef down there, guess what? You were going to embrace it in a not very nice way. And back then, if you salvaged any goods on a boat that had shipwrecked, it was your goods, which is why Key West was the richest city per capita back then. Pillaging and plundering, pirates, not much has changed. So then we're at 1878, our lighthouse was decommissioned and replaced with Fowey Rocks Lighthouse, which is so much more effective that it's still in use today. The Coast Guard operates it. It is part of the Biscayne National Park. Our rivals, no, I'm just kidding, we're all friends, I swear. Then in 1903, the Davis family repurchased the abandoned lighthouse for the U.S. Treasury for $400. Woohoo! Then James Deering actually acquired Key Biscayne and the lighthouse in 1913. There was a lot of tumultuous history with the Davis and the Deering family as well, back and forth. But Deering, so they actually even fought as far as like whose land it really was, and in the end it ended up going back to Deering with the premise that he would continue maintaining the lighthouse. So in 1919 through 1925, his engineers from his railroad actually reinforced and reshored the foundation of the lighthouse. So that was, you know, about 100 years ago. We've gone in twice to check the foundation, and it is still intact to this day. We just did it recently, last year. It's still looking good, so those guys knew what they were doing. And then 1926, we're actually going to see a picture of it soon. Lighthouse survives the Great Miami Hurricane. In 1947, the Rickenbacker Causeway was completed, which allowed for a lot of traffic to come onto the island. And the land was then being used a lot like it is today. People were coming out here to recreate and go fishing and chill out in the shade and just enjoy a little bit of wilderness in Miami, which was growing rapidly. So yeah, we've been using this land like it's meant to be used. In fact, for over 2,000 years, the Tequesta, who inhabited the land before we all came around about 2,000 years ago, then before them, the Yega and the A's, all those guys, as far as we can tell, used to come out here and enjoy the land much like we do now. So we're doing what we're supposed to. Much and thanks to our lovely Bill Baggs, William Calhoun Baggs. He was a humble guy from Georgia, self-educated, and rose to become the Miami News editor, and saw this land sort of getting packed down with a lot of the sand that they were dredging from the channel in the bay. and they were proposing to turn the land into development, develop it into a bunch of cookie cutter homes, and the development even had a road which they were planning on building a bridge that was going to join all of the other keys to this one. I can't imagine the size of the bridge that would have taken from here to Elliott Key or Soldier Key alone. But so Baggs foresaw, hey, maybe we shouldn't, lose the last little bit of wilderness that we have in Miami. Maybe we should protect it and continue using the land like we are using it now. And he actually faced a lot of backlash. People were not interested in spending $8.5 million on this piece of property. They thought it would be better to actually spend that money on other properties throughout and turn them into other parks. But he prevailed, and it wasn't until 1978, a whole 100 years after the lighthouse was decommissioned, that it was relit. Then in 1992, we had a small wind event. Sure, someone ought to remember it. Hurricane Andrew. Yep, it flattened the park, and somehow the lighthouse survived. Yet another massive hurricane. Then in 2004, Cape Florida is recognized as a National Underground Railroad Site. And last year, 20 years after, the National Lighthouse Foundation donated our $100,000 to replace our cupola glass, which was amazing. And this year it just underwent renovation, got painted. It's all looking spiffy for its anniversary. So hope you guys are going to come to the anniversary. December 17th. Mark your calendars. So just for your enjoyment, we're going to try and go through fairly quick because there's a lot of them, but just sort of like a timeline of, back in the 1800s. I just threw a shipwreck on there to kind of give you guys an idea. But yeah, that's our actual lighthouse there. Lots of changes throughout in the land as well. James Deering also had some jetties added to this area, 4 different jetties, and built a seawall in an attempt to shore the shoreline around the lighthouse. In fact, to give you guys an idea of how much the shoreline has changed, when the lighthouse went up, the shoreline was a quarter mile further out. Yeah. But we are on a barrier island. Does anybody know what that means? Crudely put, we're on a giant sand dune that moves around with the winds and the tides. So, building a castle in the sand and then wondering why it's washing away to the ocean. So yeah, it is actually doing what it's supposed to. Shoring it up with a seawall was just a meek attempt at, playing God. We're really good at that. We're really good at failing too. All right, so here we go. Continuing here, we can actually see the ruins of the first cottage that was built. I'm assuming this has got to be somewhere in the, 1920s after the first hurricane, the Great Miami Hurricane. And here's a little bit of the proposed development, the Biscayne Key Estate, so it's going to be that whole area. This is after Hurricane Andrew, and this is after the Great Miami Hurricane. So it didn't matter if you had Australian pine or native vegetation. When it's a strong enough hurricane, not much survives. So, hey, we're going into color now. Look at that. And you can see the ladder, the original wooden ladder there. And we have Deering's jetties that he attempted to shore up the line here. Obviously some graffiti because humans are awesome. This is actually one of the earlier park rangers looking up before we actually added the cast iron stairs. Those were added after Hurricane Andrew. Pretty amazing. I didn't know either. I was like blown away. I thought they had been there since the 1800s. No. That would have been much harder for them to install. Some awesome Life magazine pictures. People used to come out here and just draw on plein air. How cool is that? So we're trying to bring that back. And this year for the National Lighthouse Day, not only were we teaching people how to make their own lighthouse cardboard hats, but we had a local artist who was out there sketching the lighthouse and showing people how to use different materials, different techniques to sketch the lighthouse. She made a gorgeous one with charcoal and wine, red wine. It came out so beautiful. Yeah, so we're trying to bring the past back into the future. Anybody know who Clyde Butcher is? Incredible photographer, environmentalist. This is his picture from 1984. I was 1 year old when he took that picture. Figured I'd let you guys do the math. Here's the Fresnel lens right there. And like I said, it was massive. That whole structure took up all of the cupola. Then here's the lens, front view, side view. I borrowed that from Cape May's archives. We don't have any in ours. Pre-renovation, during renovation, post-renovation. The sunsets were always incredible up there, even if you couldn't see out of there. All right, now modern day. Hey, for people who say there are no seasons in Florida, okay, we have lots of seasons in Florida. They're just all hot. Here's some different views from inside the lighthouse. We got views through the window, looking up into the cupola where the lens used to sit up there. Out the door, view of the cottage and our Biscayne Bay. Look at that, panoramic views you could see. And these are my personal photography. I'm an artist. I really like this one. I print that one in metal, so it's really shiny. It gives it a lot of movement. Comes out really cool. And there's Fowey Rocks in case you guys haven't been out there. So this is the house where the keepers lived in. And there was no other structure. So it's literally just a bunch of metal screwed onto the reef, and they lived in this little house. In fact, our last lighthouse keepers, the Froes, went out there in 1878, and they stayed on for 3 generations. The Froes were the only people who kept that lighthouse. And I think the only reason they're no longer there is because we've gone to solar, but I would venture a guess that they would have kept on with the tradition. And I probably would have gone out there to volunteer myself. Sounds pretty cool. Although, they only bring in supplies by boat, so you're kind of stuck over there. Better learn to fish. All right, you guys, so let's talk a little bit about our beach community. So they're very delicate living systems. They have, very different cycles and seasons, just like in the rest of the planet. And we do have what's called the rack line. So that's formed by a lot of that seaweed that gets washed in, the sargassum that everybody hates because it stinks as it starts to decompose on the beach, and it gets all scraggly and gets on your clothes and on your sarong. You're trying to lay on the beach and it's all over the place. Well, we don't rake that for a reason. That's actually our first line of defense against erosion. So it's natural. It's okay for it to be there. As it starts to mix in with the sand, it starts to churn up and almost turns like a beach cement, right? And as it starts to break down and decompose, a lot of the detritus is actually food for other organisms. So all the little beach creatures, from bacteria on, to bigger creatures like fish and birds, etc., they all depend on that rack line staying where it is, including our sand dunes. They also depend on the rack line. So they help stabilize the shifting sands, like ghost crabs, shorebirds, beach nesting sea turtles. All of those depend on undisturbed spaces to thrive. As we all know, sea turtles come ashore in the summer to nest. This year we had over 90 nests already, I think. Rumia would know. Where'd you go? But yeah, she does all of our sea turtle nest surveying. And yeah, we had a really good number this year. Lots of babies, lots of mamas came through. So she's part of what we're talking about here, conservation efforts. They safeguard biodiversity, reduce erosion, and support the health of our oceans and climate, which we all depend on to survive, in case we've forgotten. Yeah, so lots of beautiful things that we can do ourselves when we're out there on the beach. Obviously, leave no trash, pack it in, pack it out, clean up all of your stuff. Things can blow away with the wind if you're not paying attention, if you're swimming. If you do dig holes in the sand, fill them in. If someone else has left a giant hole in the sand, feel free to cover that up as well. The sea turtles can actually get stuck in there as they're coming into the shore to nest, and that could be detrimental and even deadly. So fill in the holes, stay off the sand dunes. They are protected areas. They have a lot of sensitive plants, and they do need to be undisturbed to thrive. The more we stomp on them, the less likely they are to continue surviving. We also don't allow pets on our beach because of the sea turtles for the most part, but also a lot of people tend not to be respectful when they bring their pets. I bet you if the pets could pick up after themselves, they would. So anywhere in the park except for the lighthouse and the beach, you can bring your loved pets. Make sure you take them home with you. A lot of people see it fit to just leave them behind in our park, like that's their natural habitat, and no, it's not. The other day we had what? A pigeon? A pet pigeon. And she came right up to us and we're like, why is she not running away? Well, she was tagged and all that. So yeah, take your pets with you when you leave. Minimize beach activity after sunset. Noise and lights can actually deter sea turtles from nesting. If they do see human presence as they are going to nest, they'll actually turn around and leave and go try to find another spot. So we do discourage, I know everybody wants to go to the beach to see the sea turtles. I know, I do too. Trust me, I work at the park and I still don't even get to see them. Especially the mamas. They don't like to be disturbed, so we gotta give them wide berth, gotta let them hang out in their environment. We can hang out at the beach during the day. They don't do that over there. So, turtle-friendly lighting. Everybody who lives here on the Key is aware of what that is. And obviously, if you can, join a park or a beach cleanup. Keep the beach free of debris. It helps maintain everybody's health, not just the wildlife, our own. So to protect our natural resources, pretty basic stuff. I'm not going to go over this with you guys. You guys know this. I just put this over by the beach access in hopes that people are going to read and say, hey, maybe I should do this. They will, right? When they see you guys out there picking up trash, they're like, hey, maybe I shouldn't leave trash behind. So here's some more of Rumia's gorgeous photography. Stiltsville, you get some little plovers back there. Yeah. We're only at, 6 left out of Stilts? Do you guys know we have a harbor? And you can come and anchor there. You can come and pull up to the seawall throughout the day. It works just like as if you were coming in a vehicle. So come in with your boat, you pay your $8. You can have a ton of people on your boat with you, spend the whole day there. If you want to stay overnight, that's the only place you can actually camp in our park. You cannot stay on the seawall. You actually have to be anchored in the harbor. It is quite lovely. If you know anybody with a boat, please invite me. Here we go. And let's talk about our friends of Cape Florida. We got 2 over here, so I'm not going to let them talk. But the Friends of Cape Florida, they're our citizen support organization. What does that mean? These guys get together. They're just people like you and me, and they come together to fundraise for the park. And all of the money that they gather for the park stays in the park, unlike the money that the park makes, which goes to Tallahassee. And then Tallahassee decides, based on our visitation, how much we get out of that. Now we're a very well-visited park. Miami sees about 4 million visitors per year. Our park sees about 850,000 of those visitors. So we are probably the most highly visited state park in Florida. Do we get all of the money that we make because of that? Is that a reward? No, we do not. Because there's a lot of parks that don't have any visitors, but they are still maintained, so they need money somehow. And so we share. But these guys are amazing because all of the money that they garner stays in the park, goes directly towards our projects, our programs, our events, more and more activities that you guys can participate in. And these are the guys that actually put it together. The rangers are always so busy picking up trash and just trying to maintain the park with a very small budget, as we mentioned. So we definitely couldn't do it without the friends. And they're also volunteers. They're doing it out of the kindness of their hearts. They do not get paid to do it. So if anybody is interested in becoming a friend, I can do it here. I can show you how to do it online. There are various tiers, and there are various benefits to becoming a friend. Obviously, the best one is you become a friend. You make friends. You make friends with like-minded people who enjoy the same things that you enjoy, who are dedicated to maintaining this place and making sure it is still here for future generations. So
that's how I met Nanda.
That's right. We're friends now. So they are a nonprofit. Your donations are tax-free. You can make donations or you can become a member. Membership gives you access to all kinds of different exclusive events as well. And we're always looking for volunteers. So you can volunteer through the Friends or you can volunteer through the park. It's totally up to you. It depends on what you like to do. They run some of the different volunteer programs in the park, but yeah, we have opportunities for everybody. I have a variety of QR codes here, so if you guys are interested, I also have them over here. I can pass these along. These are actually a lot more fun. No, I'm just kidding. So this one has a feature that we were on Channel 10 News what was his name? Funny guy? Yeah, Louis Aguirre, exactly. Really good feature though. There's a lot of lighthouse history in that, and it's, I think, like 25 minutes. This is a documentary on Mr. Bill Baggs. Super, super, super educative, and lots of information on his life. He was a really, really great dude. And I think he would appreciate it being called a dude. We have Virtual Junior Ranger. So for anybody with little ones at home, lots of fun activities to do at home. And it's sort of like bringing the park to your house if you can't make it out there. Coloring pages, more coloring pages, because who doesn't like to color? I made a really cool program, and we talk about gopher tortoises being the superhero of the environment. They're a keystone species, which means that a lot of other species depend on them for their survival. Over 350 species depend on gopher tortoises to survive. So if they see their demise, we're going to have a collapse in the environment. So there's a really fun little video that kids and adults alike will appreciate. More fun gopher tortoise stuff. This is for those who work in an office and are stuck in a bored situation and need to have a little zen. This has really cool, sometimes it's just like waves crashing on the beach, or sometimes it's like aerial views of a certain park. So you can explore different Florida state parks through this as well. Zen out, as they say. Hey, if anybody wants to volunteer, scan this QR code and you can fill out an application online. What else do we have here? All kinds of goodies. Volunteering with the friends and volunteering with the park. So you can try these guys out right here if you want to learn more about the program that I do, the Florida Conservation Corps, and more information about the friends right here. Adopting a sea turtle nest, which we'll talk about in a second, and more information about sea turtles. So I'm going to just pop this on a table and let you guys peruse, play with it, and then if you could just pass it around onto the other tables, that would be awesome. Hopefully you got what you wanted out of this, because we're moving on. All right, here we go. Now we're talking about our awesome volunteers. Florida has the most amount of volunteers out of any state park in the country. So we're doing pretty good. We have over 14,000 volunteers donating more than 1 million hours per year. On average, a state park will have about 7 to 8 park rangers. Some state parks are, thousands and thousands of acres. Well, we're not that big. We're only, 420 acres, something like that. But other parks are thousands and thousands of acres. Can you imagine trying to run a place like that with 8 people on staff? Pretty crazy. So volunteers are the meat and taters of the Florida state parks. There is no way that they could operate without volunteers. In all kinds of areas: visitor services, administration, resource management, protection, maintenance, you name it, volunteers do it.
And aren't we looking for volunteers for the gift shop?
We are always looking for volunteers. We're actually looking pretty good right now.
Okay.
One of our lovely volunteers from the gift shops here, Miss Paula, thanks for volunteering. We appreciate you. You have a good turnout today. Yeah, we're always looking for volunteers, whether you want to do something like I did, a resident volunteer position. So you hop in your RV, or like Ambrose, who lives on a boat. Some parks offer that. You can actually park your boat in a state park and then live there for a few months while you volunteer. Not a bad gig, right? So yeah, we're always looking for volunteers. We have all kinds of different opportunities in our park. You can come help out with events. You can come do things like this today. You can help me carry stuff and come talk to people, hand out flyers and stickers. You can come help out at events. You can come give your expertise to, like with the girls over here especially, and the friends. Everybody's got a different set of skills, and they feel more confident adding that or bringing that to the party. So yeah, we try to maximize whatever you want to give us. We obviously have our hands tied in some aspects. We are a state park after all, so there's a lot of rules and regulations, but we try to make the most of it. We do accept youth volunteers as well. If they are under 14, they do need to be accompanied by a guardian. But they are welcome to come do community service hours. So if you have little ones that do need community service hours, I do have cards here with my email, and I'm happy to intake them and have them come help me out in the park. Some people really enjoy coming to do a little beach cleanup or a bay cleanup. We also do invasive species removal. Sometimes they'll do their own project and they'll come and present. So they'll talk about plastic pollution, or they'll talk about invasive species, or, but yeah, we can work it out. We always need volunteers. So we do have a monthly day of action. Every second Saturday of the month, we have a beach cleanup, park cleanup. It is free, and so is your park entry. You come in for a couple of hours, you walk around with a bucket and a picker, and help the park stay cleaner and prettier. Like the girls over here, we were doing a campaign where we were educating our visitors on the different features of the park. So we would just set up by the entrance, and people would come by and ask, what are you guys doing? And we're like, we're just here to tell you whatever you want to know about the park, that is. We don't know much else. So lots of information. Anybody adopt a nest this year? Yeah, cool. So adopting a nest, it's a symbolic gesture. So basically you're sponsoring the maintenance and care and serving of that nest. But you do get your picture on there, or if you're sponsoring for someone else, you do get to put their picture on there. And you know that you helped protect that batch of baby turtles through the season. And it also helps support the nesting program that we have here in our park through the FWC permit. So if you guys want to sign up for park and beach cleanups, volunteercleanup.org. That's the site where you go to sign up for the second Saturday of the month beach cleanups. Like I said, it is free, and so is your park entry. And your park entry is good for the whole day. So if you come in, do your 2 hours of a beach cleanup, and you can stay until the park closes for the rest of the day because you did your part. More Rumia's pictures. Amazing. Look at Rumia over here, guys. She's doing a nest eval, which sounds really awesome. Like, hey, she's getting to touch eggs and stuff like that. It can be really gruesome. You find all kinds of stuff in there. So, thank you, Rumia. Someone needs to do it.
I was gonna say I spent a good part of this morning smelling of disgusting dead turtle. It was fun.
It's like a sea
or
turtle
more like
omelet.
maybe not so much dead turtle, but rotten eggs, which is just as bad. So
There's a little
no, it was just some of the nests that we had to do
collection
this
of
morning
ping
were
pong
they were
balls.
just really messy. A lot of eggs that didn't
and then they make it out
hatch
to
or
the
got
ocean.
damaged.
And maybe one will survive. But we've seen really good numbers, especially in the past 3, 4, 5 years. And what we talk about is how it's a result of conservation efforts that were put in place 30 years ago. Because sea turtles don't reach maturity, or at least sexual maturity, to start procreating until about 25, 30, right? They have quite a long way to make it there, which is quite hard. They have a lot of predators, a lot of different creatures, and a lot of different, humans, always the biggest problem. But so yeah, they have a lot of issues to face to reach maturity, and so to see a larger number of turtles reach that and then come back and nest, then we know that it's definitely efforts that we put in place, decades and decades ago. So proof that one person can make a difference, right? All right, bird nerds, unite. Any bird nerd in town? All right. We got a couple. See, supposedly, you're never a bird nerd until you reach like your 30s, and then it happens overnight. You're like, oh, isn't that a speckled? So our park is actually a bird haven. Pretty cool for a nerd like me. You're just like, oh my God, look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that. But you do have to keep an eye out. They don't live in the park year-round for the most part. The majority of them just come in and visit through the seasons. So you have to keep an eye out. Here we have our great blue heron, hoping to catch more than just sunset at No Name Harbor. A pod of pelicans flying over the lighthouse. We also have a ton of magnificent frigate birds that like to hover over the lighthouse. Our park is a vital sanctuary for migrating birds that are coming through the Atlantic Flyway on their migration. So it's considered to be one of the premier birding spots for all the bird nerds out there. Great to see you, Don. Have a beautiful day, love. We'll see you soon. So we have a checklist of over 260 bird species in our park. And we are part, like I said, of the Great Florida Birding and Wildlife Trail. It's basically an urban oasis for all of these different species. Again, for the bird nerds in the back, we have over 30 types of warblers that come through, including some rare ones like the cerulean and the Swainsons, great kingbirds, herons, every kind, and some of the rarest birds in the state like the Key West quail dove have also been known to come through our park. Lots of shorebirds, lots and lots of shorebirds. Sanderlings, ruddy turnstones, black-bellied plovers, black skimmers, you name it, they're out there. Oyster catchers, terns of every kind. And then we have some of the more common birds that we see here in our park, the white ibis, the swallowtail kite, super cool bird of prey, the belted kingfisher, little guy, but also super cool. Great blue heron, almost as tall as me, not hard to do, but, and then the snowy plover, lots of different, there's tons more. I mean, I could sit here all day talking about birds. Look at that. We got a mix between of Rumias and mine, and we got a cormorant right here. We see a lot of these guys. There's a whole bunch of frigate birds. They were behaving like vultures that day, weirdly enough. You know, frigate birds are so cool. They actually don't land on the water or on the ground because their wingspan is so big that if they were to land on the ground or on the water, they wouldn't be able to take back off. So they land on treetops or on perches, and when it's time to take off, they fall and catch a thermal, and the thermal lifts them up. And that's also how they sleep. They sleep on the wing. So they'll sleep 10-second increments at a time, and they're actually, it looks like they're free falling, but they're actually getting raised by the thermals, and they're sleeping. Pretty magnificent, right?
How much do they weigh?
They're pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're big birds. If you go over to the Cranda Marina area right there, as you're pulling into the marina, if you're coming in from the water, there's a little island that's basically a little rookery there. Depending on what time of year it is, you'll see hundreds upon hundreds of frigate birds. Yeah, it smells delicious. Yeah, shorebirds, they're a special breed, man.
I just wanted to say that over the years, I found a few injured birds on the beach, and a good place to know is the Pelican Harbor.
Pelican Harbor, yeah.
Yeah, but they won't take birds that are not native.
Native species.
But other birds, they're very good. They come right away.
They're the ones that we bring our birds, our injured birds to. Yeah, yeah. We don't do any rehabilitation ourselves.
Anybody hurt me, so maybe you can.
Yeah, so our park is not equipped to rehabilitate any sort of, wildlife species. And so we do reach out to a lot of different sanctuaries whenever we do have an injured species in our park. Injured birds, very common in our park, more common than any other species of injuries. Like we had a squirrel the other day, or maybe a raccoon, or maybe some iguanas, which we're not rehabilitating iguanas, sorry guys.
No, I saw cormorants and a pelican, and they came right away to pick them.
Yeah, they're really good. They're really good. And sometimes because they're all volunteer run as well. If they don't have a volunteer to come and pick them up, then we'll send one of our rangers over there to bring the bird to them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes when they have a bird that needs to be released, they have to release them in an allowed area. And so some of the state parks actually allow rehabbed birds to be released on their property. Yeah. Some state parks also allow sea turtles when they're rehabbed to be released on their property, like John D. MacArthur Beach State Park. Loggerhead Marine Center is right there next to them in Jupiter. And so a lot of the rehab turtles actually get released through our park as well. Yeah, if you ever encounter an injured bird in our park, like I said, we're not equipped to handle it ourselves, but we do have carriers, and we treat them well, and then either we wait for a volunteer to come pick them up, or we bring them ourselves. Or a lovely volunteer will bring one for us.
Yeah, the squirrel I drove out to Everglades Outpost. I was just actually going to say that cormorant in the picture in the corner, I suspected was injured when I took that picture, because he was letting me get very close, and he was being really weird. And I called Pelican Harbor. They came and picked him up. So I don't know what was wrong with him. He didn't have any broken bones as far as I could see, but he was acting really strange. So
sometimes it's just fatigue too.
yeah, or it could also be poison. because they get in if they, eat like some animal
Plastic
that's
or
been
some-
poisoned or
worse,
something.
They could be choking on something.
Yeah,
You never
exactly.
know. Yeah, generally, if a bird will allow you to get very close like that, it is either injured or, like, we have a white heron at our park that he's just, we named him Bob because he's really friendly. Yeah, he got beat up by a fisherman. Fisherman beat him up because he took his bait. And, well, let's talk about that fisherman. A real person, human, beat up a bird. And the bird has called our park its home for quite some time. And in fact, when it was rehabbed and all that, they brought him back to our park. He has a little bit of a gimpy wing. Don't worry, he still flies perfectly.
I did call them and I just sent them the picture.
Thank
They said, "No,
goodness.
he's fine."
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. He's back at our park. Despite the nasty human, he was not discouraged because it's a really good place to live for him. He's got good food right there. He's got his shelter. The mangrove restoration area is right there. So they're good. As long as humans don't interfere again, they should be okay, right? If anybody's a boater, we do have various DEP, Florida Department of Environmental Protection, programs that are put forth to help incentivize people to do the best sort of boating job they can do out there, just to be as conscientious a boater as possible. So we do have Clean Boater Pledge. It just basically says that you vow to fuel up in proper places and not let, oil spill in the water. You're not throwing debris in the water. You're using clean marinas as often as you can. Just, being responsible, common sense stuff that's now uncommon, right? And then we talk a little bit about the biggest problem we have as humans, I think, collectively now, is plastic pollution. It's just a problem that won't go away. And I mean that because plastic does not go away. It does not biodegrade. It doesn't disintegrate. It simply breaks down into tiny, tiny, tiny pieces over time. Tinier and tinier and tinier. They're known as microplastics. So they're smaller than a little pencil eraser. There is an uncountable number of microplastics in the ocean, and all of the wildlife obviously is ingesting it. And guess who else is ingesting it? That's right. There have been studies now that there's plastic in our lungs, there's plastic in our bloodstream, there's plastic in all of our vital organs. So I don't know, what's going to happen? Are we going to become like some sort of plastic hybrid? Going to be like plastic cyborgs? Something. I mean, this isn't sustainable, and we're way beyond where we needed to, actually do something about it. Like, we need to sort of radicalize at this stage. And it's so hard because as individuals, we want to add these practices in our daily lives, but the world moves so fast and the options aren't necessarily there. What's mass produced? And we don't really hold those mass production companies accountable for the amount of waste that they're generating. And so we feel discouraged in our own lives, and we feel like we're not making a difference as individuals, but really the world's not making it easier on us either. So it's a combination of both things. So a lot of marine species like fish, dolphins, sea turtles, mussels, even zooplankton, whales have been found to accidentally eat microplastics. Some of the most remote areas of the planet areas that haven't even seen humans before have a high concentration of plastic debris and trash. So we do have a couple of little pickup stations in the park. So you can actually go to the harbor or to the mangrove area, and we're working on getting some more installed throughout the beach accesses as well. That way you can do your own guided or self-guided park cleanup or beach cleanup. So it's just a little stand with a picker and a bucket. And you just grab it and walk around the park and pick up debris as you go about your day and do your things, and you bring it back, and voila. Pretty basic. So you're making a difference just right there. But also, there's got to be a better way, right? You can't just go to the beach and pick up after other people. So what's the most impactful effort that we can put forth when reducing plastic waste? Education, absolutely, number one. But personally, personal efforts. We got to reduce our consumption. That's it. And not just our plastic consumption, but our general consumption, right? And that is how much we drive around, how much we drive, how much we fly, how much we, ingest information in the media and television, and that's all consumption. And all of that, every single thing we consume had to be generated, and that had a whole system in place to be manufactured, and all of that consumes power, consumes. So the more we are conscientious of our consumption, the less likely we are to be wasteful, right?
If I can add to that?
Absolutely.
Not trying to shame anybody, just a reminder. Most of you got reusable silverware from me a few months ago to bring with you. And yes, I saw that you were one person who brought them to use. So I just want to remind everybody to try to remember to bring your reusable silverware with you so that we're not using the plastic silverware.
I love that.
Plastic silverware is one of the things we find on the beach quite often.
Weirdly enough, toothbrushes. We find a lot of those. Guess what? The toothbrush you used when you were, 25 years old, it still exists. It's still on the planet. Fine. Just shows you how long things take to break down. Like we talked about, your toothbrushes are still in existence today. Styrofoam, your plastic thank you bags, diapers, things like that. These things, they're never going anywhere. So what can we do? We gotta have alternative, right? Alternative materials, alternatives to the things that we do on a daily basis, like Rumia said. So we should be using our reusables as much as possible. What's the most impactful thing you can do? Refuse single use, right? So say no to these products. Do your best to avoid using these products. Okay, so I need Tide. I need to wash my clothes. How am I gonna get my clothes clean? Well, guess what? They make these laundry sheets now, and they come in a paper thingy, and you can wash your clothes just as well. It smells just as good, costs a fraction of the price, uses a lot less materials, and guess what? No plastic. It's never gonna end up in the landfill. That's not gonna be recycled. And that's just one alternative. So we should all be carrying our reusable water bottles. You can get them at Winn-Dixie. You can get them at the Dollar Tree.
What is the name?
I personally use one that's called Earth Breeze. They're one of the first ones who started this, and the gentleman also donates one full package for every purchase that you make. They donate it to someone who's in need. Earth Breeze. It's like it's online. It's a subscription. I get one every 4 months. You can change the frequency and all that. It comes in a little package like this and a paper envelope, and voila, that's it. $12. You buy one for yourself, someone else gets one for free. You can use one sheet depending on the size of your load. If it's a smaller load, you can use half a sheet. Very, very useful. So yeah, your reusable water bottles, right? Glass, use glass as much as you can. Aluminum is also much more recyclable than plastic. Glass, hey guys, it's made out of sand. It goes back to being sand. Yeah, obviously try to avoid eating highly processed foods. Whole foods, whole grains, stuff that you have to actually cook. Ingredients, much better for you and for the environment versus, your Lay's bag of chips over here or your McDonald's. Hey, look at that. We're having lunch here. We could have been using bamboo plates, banana leaf plates. I have a girlfriend who came up with the concept for the utensils. Instead of using plastic, she uses avocado pits. The alternatives are out there. What's happening? We're not investing in them, right? Why?
Convenience.
That's our culture, the culture of convenience. So we have to be like a little uncomfortable to affect change, right? Because if we're really comfortable in the status quo, are we going to do anything about it? Never. All right, and then lastly, if anybody has little ones, they are welcome to become junior rangers. I'm a junior ranger, and I'm happy to induct any junior rangers into the Hall of Fame. There are cool activities that you guys can all do together, and you can grab a folder from me today, or if not, at the ranger station in the park as well. Free program, lots of fun activities for little kids, or bigger kids like me. And voila, here's the cache of images, the location I found them at. Coast Guard Archive, Life Magazine, Islander News, Google Images, Lighthouse Digest, and Ruby and myself, and that's it. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time. Thank you.